Hi, Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is a very, very, very important chapter. It's all about the need for forgiveness. But let's speak about, for a moment, why people get upset and how that mechanism works, and we'll have a much better understanding of how forgiveness makes a very big difference. So the first thing we have to understand is nobody wants to be demeaned. A person wants to have friends, but they do not want to feel lower. It's like a seesaw, right? We like to be equal with another person. We certainly don't like to be below another person. There is an evil desire in a person to be supreme, but we're not discussing that at this stage. At this stage, we're discussing the fact that we don't like to be here. But what happens if we are put over here? Well, our anger says, take revenge, put the person over here. So the problem with that is that anger is a very, very detrimental emotion. Now, there are many studies that show, first of all, we'll speak about hypertension, which leads to many diseases. And there are beliefs from Deepak Chopra, other doctors, that forgiveness actually cures cancer. So it seems that they think that emotions make cells go haywire, and we definitely store emotions in our cells. And that's why if you were able to access forgiveness, you can release negative emotions. So the thing is that what actually occurs when a person is angry is that, imagine like they've swallowed a little pill of poison. And so the question is, how do I get rid of this poison? And that's why it speaks about in the Holy Baal Shem Tov says that in the Bible, there are 248 positive do commands and 365 negative don't do commands. Now, each do has a corresponding don't do. So the most important commandment, as we've mentioned, is to love your friend as you love yourself. But the most important flip side, don't do command, is to not hate, to not hold a grudge, because really there's that little poison pill that is inside the person. Until the person gets rid of that, it's not poisoning their enemy, it's poisoning them, because the pill is in you, it's not in the other person. So the human instinct is to take revenge, but that's not going to make anything better, because normally what would happen is, okay, let's say a seesaw model, you were here, someone made you here. If you take revenge, then suddenly they're going to go there. So they're going to want to take revenge. So you can see how revenge is a no-win situation. So the answer is a couple of things. The first thing you can do, quite a noble thing, is to forgive the person. What is anger? Anger is resentment. Well, if you don't have resentment, you don't have anger. So forgiveness is quite simply, as we're going to recommend, you make a list of all the people who have ever offended you, hurt your feelings, and say, I forgive them. And if you're genuine and you have true forgiveness, then you don't have any, you sort of pop that pill, it goes out of your system, you don't have any anger in you whatsoever. I forgive you. The next thing that you can do is you can actually confront the person. You say, I'd like to tell you I'm upset. Again, here you've been lowered, and here you get rid of that anger. It's not revenge, we're not allowed to take revenge, but you're expressing the fact that you're dissatisfied. And in that way, you let go. You don't feel lower than the person. You've confronted the person, and in that way, you can feel that you're not lower than them anymore. There's another two ways, and both of these ways are very, very important. The first way is the idea of Joseph. Now, we know that Joseph was probably the person entitled the most in the Bible to have bitterness, maybe the most in the world. His own brothers sold him into slavery. And to make matters worse, once he was a slave, he was falsely accused, and he was sold, and he was put into a dungeon. So it's not exactly like he had a great life. And yet, even though he wasn't responsible for any of the things that he did, he never held resentment. And the reason why was because he believed everything came from God. So the more we can be aware that life comes from God, and God is only good, the less we hold resentments to other people. And this is very, very important. In fact, the Jewish sages teach that anger is like idolatry. idolatry is such a terrible sin. Why would anger be like idolatry? Because what is idolatry? Idolatry says, let's say the sun is in charge of itself. And so you are saying that that individual is in charge of himself, and he had power that God didn't give him. We find a story that when King David had to flee from his own son's coup, Shimei ben Gera, who was a very respected individual, was cursing King David as he leaves the city. So King David's general, Yoav, said, allow me to kill him. So King David said, no, God told him to curse me. Now, why would God tell anyone to curse such a great man as King David? The answer is, King David realized, if this man is cursing me, it comes from God. So yes, he will be punished for his bad choice, as eventually he was. But the fact that something bad happens to you can only happen if God decided that it should happen. And if God decided, like Joseph said, this happened only because God wanted to make me the savior of the world. He saved the entire world from hunger. So you see how everything negative must lead to an extraordinary positive. Otherwise, God wouldn't do it. As the Baal Shem Tov says, before a lion pounces, he must crouch. The same thing, or a similar thing, the Baal Shem Tov teaches that we have a tremendous ability to transform resentment into positivity. And it goes like this. If anything negative ever occurs to you, think about all the positive that came out of that negative. And once you do that, you will be able to, instead of see the negative of that situation and be upset, you'll actually be happy that it happened to you. You'll let go of the resentment. So this chapter is all about how to let go of resentment. Resentment, as we said, is an absolute poison. It obviously kills a person's happiness, but it's also been related to Yanamacha, to cancer. Letting go of resentment has been proven to cure certain cancers. So therefore, we've given you 4 tips on how to let go of resentment, either forgiveness, confronting, trusting that it was good coming from God, or actually finding the good in it, and therefore transforming the pain into an actual pleasure. Thank you.